Hello. So today is live number 4. I didn't make it on live yesterday, but 4 lives so far this week with the weekend to go is well, it's a lot more than I've ever done before. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Today though, I actually want to talk about emotional eating. I've mentioned it before, and a lot of people know what it is, but there's some people that don't know exactly what it is. Some people that might be doing it that aren't actually aware that they are doing it. So have you ever found yourself just reaching for the junk food, the bags of crisps, the tubs of ice cream, the bags of Maltesers? I was a paying for bags of Maltesers after you've had a stressful day, and just without even realising it, reaching for that food, eating it without even realising what you're eating, barely even tasting it, just having to get that food in. You're absolutely not alone if you have. That is pretty much emotional eating. So today I'm just going to talk quickly about what it is, why we do it, and how we can break that cycle. So if you've ever felt like you eat based on your emotions rather than your hunger, today's chat is just for you. Emotional eating is something that tons of people struggle with, and it's rarely talked about openly. We do kind of hide it. I guess because it feels like we don't have the willpower, we don't have the discipline to stop it. But it's not really. It's not really about that at all. But if you have ever experienced what you think is emotional eating, just let me know in the comments if you have. Maybe when you're stressed or bored or upset. Any of those kind of emotions. If you've ever noticed yourself doing that, just let me know. So what is emotional eating? Simply put, it's when we eat to cope with our emotions rather than a physical hunger. You don't necessarily feel hungry. You just know that you want to eat. Okay, it's a way of comforting, distracting or numbing ourselves from what we are actually feeling. It can sometimes be displayed with actual hunger, but the way I always think about it is what we do with kids, isn't it? If you're actually hungry, would a piece of fruit cut it? Would you eat an apple and be done? Or does it have to be something specific? More often than not, things that aren't particularly good for us. So why do we eat emotionally? Firstly, it's a stress response. When we're stressed, our bodies release that wonderful, wonderful cortisol, which is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. I've noticed it in a lot of places. A lot of people talking about stress, a lot of people talking about cortisol release. But cortisol itself increases cravings for high fat and high sugar foods. So if you are feeling stressed, know that it's cortisol being released that is making you want to reach for those foods. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not a lack of willpower. Habit and conditioning is another reason why we might emotionally eat. From childhood, most of us are comforted with food, and I'm guilty of doing that with my own children. If they're upset, if they're worried, oh, let's get something nice to eat, let's do this, do that. And if you think about getting a treat when you were a child, it can come from that sometimes as well. Big one for me was boredom and loneliness. Despite the fact I'm very, very rarely alone, my job, my home life is quite isolating. A lot of my clients are non-verbal. My massage clients, that is. A lot of them are non-verbal, so I don't talk to anybody for hours at a time. I'm not on my own, but it is lonely. I don't have work colleagues to talk with. I don't have another adult at home with me. So while I've got the kids, it's not quite the same, is it? So it was a big one from me. And food becomes a distraction, really, when we don't want to sit with uncomfortable emotions. A lot of us are uncomfortable feeling our emotions and we don't like to sit with them, so we try and find a distraction. Also, dieting and restriction. So I spent most of my life on a diet, to be honest. I think I went to my first slimming club when I was about 17. And it's quite ironic, but actually dieting can trigger emotional eating. When we deprive ourselves, we create an emotional attachment to food. So if you are of the mindset that you are dieting and you can't have this and you can't have that, you actually create an emotional attachment to it. And this then makes us more likely to binge later. Also, if you restrict too much, so say you've been eating, I don't know, 2,500 calories a day, and you then drop it right down to 1,200, that's going to cause a massive restriction, a massive calorie deficit, and it's quite likely going to lead you to binge on certain things that you haven't allowed yourself to have. So there are ways that we can break the cycle. They're really simple, but can be quite powerful. So when you catch yourself, stop and identify the trigger. Like before you eat something, ask yourself, am I actually physically hungry? Or is there an emotion that I'm feeding instead? It sounds really silly, but it's just about taking that time to pause and stop and really consider why you're eating what you're eating. You could find a non-food coping strategy. If you're feeling stressed, deep breathing, take a walk. If you're bored, call a friend, journal instead of eating. They're all options that you can think about doing instead of eating. Eating mindfully, just slow everything down and pay real attention to the food that you're eating. Emotional eating is often very, very mindless. As I said earlier, you don't necessarily taste what you're eating. It becomes a way of just shoveling something in. You've had a craving for it and you feed that craving and you shove it in. You don't always taste it. So if you slow down and eat mindfully, you can make more conscious choices, which is what it's all about, really. Give yourself permission is another really good strategy. If you tell yourself, I can't have that, your brain wants it more. Just think about whenever you've told yourself any time that you can't have something, and the craving for it has become so strong. If you remove the guilt around food, it can help to break the cycle. And then the biggest one for me and for a lot of my clients is to actually address the root emotion. Instead of using food to suppress the emotion, practice acknowledging the emotion. Ask yourself, what do you really need right now? Or ask yourself, what is missing from your life right now that you are using food to help with. Okay, so that's just a few different strategies, and I know that some of them you're going to go, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that, because it's like because sometimes it's just not right for you. But if there is one that is better than the others, maybe just try that. Okay. So as I've already said, emotional eating is absolutely not a lack of willpower. It's not a lack of discipline. It's about emotions, habits, coping mechanisms. Okay. The good news is that you do have the power to change your relationship with food. You start by becoming more aware and finding new and better ways to handle the emotions that you are feeling. We are not taught as children how to sit with our emotions and to feel them. As children, when we cry, we're always encouraged to cheer up and stop crying. But actually crying is a very good emotional release. It might not feel all that great at the time, but it's a very, very good emotional release. We are told to not be grumpy as children. We are told to not be unhappy. We are told to just get on with things. Children are resilient, they'll get over it. So we're not taught very well how to deal with emotions. I think that is a change that's happening, but for those people in my generation, maybe slightly younger, maybe slightly older, we weren't taught how to sit with our emotions. So learning how to deal with them and learning how to sit with your emotions can be incredibly uncomfortable, but so very, very worthwhile. I am doing a 3-day mindful eating challenge in my Facebook group, which I have linked onto this post. So it's just, there's 3 days, there's 3 challenges, and it's about drawing attention to how you eat, what you're eating, what you're feeling, and using some of those strategies that I have just talked about. So if you are not in my group and you would like to take part in the mindful eating challenge, just click the link and ask to join. I'll let you in. And if you are already in my group, then you'll see the posts when they come up over the next 3 days. I know that for some people, doing a mindful eating challenge over a weekend might be slightly tricky, because we do tend to relax a little bit at weekends. We do tend to eat a bit more, eat slightly different stuff at weekends. But that's why I chose to do it over the weekend, to really get a handle on why you do the things you do with your food, and really to get a good understanding of your habits with food. So hopefully some of you will join in with me to do it. I think it could be really interesting. And I will be going live again over the weekend, probably on Saturday and Sunday. No idea what I'm going to talk about yet. But you know, we keep going, we keep moving forward, and I will pick something. I've got loads to talk. I've always got loads to talk about. My quick lives are never all that quick, are they? So I will see you again over the weekend.